So let's move on to proportions with CI. So if we're given a proportion, um, we have to use a different formula for calculating CI. So CI for proportions, we use this corresponding formula, and everything pretty much remains the same. That's supposed to be a C. I is equal to PS plus or minus Z times the square root of PU 1 minus PU over N, right? And this PS is simply the sample proportion. This remains our alpha Z, which you can get from appendix table number 5 in the back of your book. And this PU here, and that's a U, is the population proportion. And N is just our total, right? So let's do the example in a PowerPoint, right? So in the example in the PowerPoint, it reads, we wish to estimate the proportion of students at your university who missed at least one day of classes because of illness last semester in a random sample of 200 students. So we know it's a random sample and the N is 200. 60 students reported missing one day of class due to illness. So we know that 60 students missed a class due to illness, right? So we know that our sample proportion is simply 60 divided by 200, which will give us 0.30, right? And we like to calculate a 95% alpha confidence interval. So we know that a 95% alpha equals being wrong 5% of the time. It equals a Z of 1.96, which again, we can find from the bottom table in appendix number, table number 5 in the appendix, right? So let's just plug all of this into a formula, right? Into the formula for CI, right? So we know that our sample proportion is 0.3. It's plus or minus 1.96 over the square root of PU 1 minus PU divided by N, right? So our N is 200, right? But there's something that's interesting about this. No matter what you get for PU, it's always going to be 0.25. So I want you guys to remember that this is always in our numerator going to be 0.25. So if we plug this into the formula, what we'll get is 1.96 over the square root of 0.25 divided by 200, right? So if we just did everything in the square root, that'll lead us to 8.95 when we divide 0.25. When we divide 0.25 by 200, actually it gives us 0.0125, right? And we take the square root of that, that's going to give us 0.04. So we'll just bring this down, and that's 1.96 times 0.24, which will give us 0.08. So we know that our answer is 0.3 plus or minus 0.08. And this is our answer. What I'd like you to take away from this, though, is that in this proportional problem, that the numerator is always 0.25. It never changes.